There's a giant selection of flavors out there now available for drum heads. And when you're shopping for a set of heads for yourself, especially if you're a new drummer, it can be a little bit confusing, man. When you see all these different flavors on the wall and stuff, like, you know, what are you supposed to choose and blah, blah, blah. And so this video here is just it's mostly for new drummers, but it's just, you know, in general, just a bunch of tips for drummers that are shopping for heads, whether you're a new drummer or whether you got a little bit more experience, but you're still unsure what to use. That's what this is for. This is just a few tips for shopping for heads. Now, the best way to start shopping for heads is to first just sort of get a little bit of education on drum heads in general and, you know, the different types and the makeups and all that kind of stuff. Because once you get all that, that'll sort of help you to narrow down the selection for you, and you'll have a better idea of what you want for your kit. Now, I got a lot of emails from different drummers just asking for advice. What types of heads should I play? And honestly, man, that's no different than asking me what shirt you should wear tomorrow morning. You know what I mean? I have no idea. Like, I don't know what kind of music you play. I don't know what your style is. There's too many different choices out there for me to say, choose this head for what you want. So the best thing to do is just sort of determine what it is that you want your kit to sound like and then choose your heads accordingly. So let's just talk a little bit first about the different sort of characteristics that are in each drum head. And we'll start with thickness. Now, when you're reading a description of a drum head in terms of thickness, and you see, you know, 10 mil or 14 mil or 7.5 mil, whatever. What does mil mean? Mil basically is 1 mil equals 1/1000th of an inch. So that's what the thickness means, all right? So the most common thickness for a single ply head is 10 mil. For a double ply head or a 2-ply, it's generally 2 sort of plies each of either 7 mil or 7.5 mil to equal a total of 14-ish mil. Now, there are also drum heads out there available that are single ply, but they're thicker. And there's a reason for this, and we'll talk about that later. But that seems to be a cool choice for a lot of people. So basically, the thinner the head, the more projection you're going to get, the more sustain you're going to get. But you're also going to get a little bit more overtones with the thinner heads. Thicker heads, like the thicker you go, the more sort of controlled it's going to be, and the less sustain that you'll get out of those heads. So, I mean, just starting with that fact alone, that'll sort of help you to get on your way as far as what thickness of head that you should be looking for your kit. As far as clear versus coated heads, clear heads will generally give you a little bit more attack when the stick hits it. Coated heads are a little warmer. So, you know, a lot of gospel guys, a lot of jazz drummers like to use coated heads. I'm a big fan myself of coated heads because I just like that warmth, and I like my kit to sort of sing out a little bit. So I tend to lean more towards the coated thing. Now, when we're shopping for drum heads for our kit, we're basically just looking for a type of drum head that'll complement our playing style or our technique, and will also give us the sound that we're looking for when we go to hit our drums. So if you're a new drummer, if you've only been playing for like a year or anywhere under 2 years, this might not be too relevant or too important to you just yet, because you don't really have enough experience yet to know what you want out of your drums. Just worry about learning how to play at this point, and then as you get more experience, then your taste is going to develop, and your style is going to develop, and then your ear is also going to develop, and you're going to know later on specifically what you want to get out of your drums, and then you can choose your heads accordingly. So if you're a new drummer and you're shopping for your first set of replacement heads for your kit, and you have no idea where to turn, what to do, my suggestion has always been just pick a good, durable 2-ply, either clear or coated. That's up to you. But just pick a good 2-ply skin for your kit. So if you're into Evans, then just pick up a G2 or something, like a clear or coated G2. Or if you're into Remo, then clear or coated Emperor will do the trick for you. Those are just good, all-purpose, all-around, versatile drum heads that you can throw in your kit, and then they'll last you until whenever. So for new drummers out there, I suggest, next time you're in a music store, just take a stroll over and stand in front of the Evans heads for a few minutes. It's not because I'm trying to sell you on Evans heads so much, but the cool thing I like about the Evans heads is that they give you a little bit of education on the box as far as the proper application for that head, and they give you a little sort of graphic of the attack and the sustain and the tone and the durability or whatever. So you can take the head out, take a look at it, you know what I mean, read the description, and it's just a good way to get a better education of what you can get out of a specific type of drum head. Now, for you intermediate drummers out there that are looking for your second set of heads now, you want to start to get a little bit more specific as far as what you're looking for in a drum head. There's a lot of stuff to look at now. A few more things that you're probably going to want to consider. And again, like it all has to do with whatever sound you're looking to get out of your drums. It's going to have a lot to do with the style of music that you end up sort of moving towards. So whether you're sort of sticking with one sort of specific style of music, or if you want to be an all-arounder, if you want to sort of move towards the session type drummer that likes to play in all different types of situations, this is going to help you with your selection. Now, when I'm choosing drum heads for my kit, I like to look for something that's going to give me exactly what I need without having to use any muffling at all, because I hate using muffling, especially when I don't have to. If I'm in the studio, sometimes it's a necessary evil, and you have to get rid of a little bit of overtones and whatever else. So temporarily, you slap a gel or two on there, or sometimes, I hate to say it, but if you want to stick some duct tape on there just to get rid of a little bit of ring, just so you can get through the recording, that's cool. But for the most part, man, like whenever I choose heads for any drums that I'm going to use on any type of gig situation, I prefer, whenever possible, not to use any muffling at all. So I try to pick a drum head that will allow me to get exactly what I want out of the kit without putting anything on the heads. Let's just talk briefly about each type of drum head that's out there and why you might want to choose that one for your kit. Starting with single ply. Single ply heads, and I'm talking mainly about toms here, by the way. But single ply heads, like I said off the top, will give you more projection and a little bit more attack when your stick hits it, all right? Clear single ply heads are a little bit brighter. So, for live performing, it's a great choice for live performing. Any type of clear single ply skin is going to give you the most projection. So if you want your drums to cut in those types of situations, clear heads are good. So if you're a rock drummer or a pop drummer and you're playing with a bunch of loops and samples and a lot of higher frequencies in your situation, a single ply clear skin would probably be a good choice for you. Coated heads are a little warmer. So I personally am a big fan of coated heads. They sing out a little bit more for my taste, and that's how I kind of like my drums to sound. So I tend to lean more towards the warmer type of skins. And so it's basically the same thing. You get that nice projection, but they're a little bit warmer. So if you do a lot of soloing and stuff like that, if you're in instrumental type band situations where you're featured a lot, coated skins are really cool for that kind of thing. 2-ply skins are a little bit thicker, obviously, so they're going to offer a bit more durability. So if you're a harder hitter and you want something that's going to last you a little bit longer, then you might want to look at a 2-ply skin. You can go clear or coated. There's not one that's any better than the other. It's completely personal preference. And again, it depends on what you want to hear out of your drums. So if you're in a rock situation and you need to cut and you need that extra durability, 2-ply is the way to go for you. And most likely, I'm thinking you might want to go clear. Now the third option, which I think is the coolest one, it's a combination of the two. So it's a single ply, but it's thicker. So for instance, the Evans G14 is a single ply 14 mil skin, whereas the G2 is 14 mil, but it's 2 plies. So what's the advantage? Well, basically, when you have 1 ply, you get a little bit better resonance because it's just a 1 ply, right? So you get that same really nice projection as you would. You get the durability, but you get the benefits of just having a single ply skin. So Evans has a G12 and a G14. I'm not sure what's offered on the Remo side, but for a little bit I was using a G14 and I really liked it. Like it sounded really nice and open, but it was durable. Like it gave me the durability of a 2-ply. So that's another cool option for you as well. So if you like that openness of a single ply, but you want something a little bit tougher, then try to look for a single ply, thicker skin. Now there are also a few drum head options out there that have some type of internal muffling. So it's either 1 ply or a 2-ply skin. You flip it over, you notice there's like a 1-inch ring built right in to the skin. This is a great idea. And for you guys that want a nice durable drum head, but you want a little bit extra sort of containment, you want something a little bit more controlled, this option is great, especially for the studio, because they're a lot more controlled and a lot more sort of contained. On the opposite end, if you're choosing a really thin skin, if you're looking at, say, a calf tone or something like that, a calf tone is really thin, man. It's like 7 mil. So if you're a hard hitter and you want to choose that head, basically because it looks cool, you can do that, but, just be prepared. You're probably going to destroy them in a couple of weeks. Those thin drum skins are generally for drummers that like to tune their kits way up, right? So bebop drummers, jazz drummers, they're using thinner sticks with a lighter touch. Those skins are great. But if you're playing gospel music or pop or anything or rock music or whatever, just be aware, man. Like you're gonna go through that skin pretty quick just because it's so thin. So you just want to make sure that you choose your drum head accordingly. Resonant heads. Let's talk about resonant heads for a little bit. There's kind of been sort of an ongoing debate, I guess. Not really a debate, but there's a lot of hardcore drummers out there that will tell you that you need to change your resonant heads often. I'm sure I'm going to get a few guys in the comment section saying the same thing. Here's my take on resonant heads, man. This kit, I've had this kit for, I don't even know now, 8 years, 9 years. And you guys know, you've heard these toms. You've heard how great these toms sound. I'm still rocking the original resonant heads that came on the kit. And they still look brand new and they tune up brand new. And I play this kit a lot. So, I mean, the choice is yours, man. If you want to go out and spend the money on a good set of resonant heads, you can. But even after 25, almost 30 years now of playing, I've yet to hear that much of a difference between resonant heads. I have a set of Reso 7s, Evans Reso 7s on my gigging kit, my black stage custom. And all I can tell you is that they sound fantastic. What I can't tell you convincingly is that it made a huge difference from what was previously on there, which was just a clear 10 mil skin that was put on there, you know, at the factory. So if you're out there, you're shopping for heads and you're thinking that you have to spend the money on a set of resonant heads, if your original ones haven't been touched, I'm here to tell you that you probably don't have to. I really don't think you're gonna hear that much of a difference. You can leave the resonant skins on there for a long time without having to worry about them. They're not even getting a fraction of the wear that the top heads are getting. So you're generally okay with just leaving the original ones on there. Snare heads. When you're shopping for snare heads, there's much more of a selection to choose from. And depending on what type of sound you're trying to get out of that snare, you know, there's a lot of different things that you can put on there. They tend to make a sort of broader selection for snare because you can get away with using much thicker heads on snare than you would on your toms. A big trend right now with hip hop drummers and gospel drummers is to have a second snare sort of in place of your 14-inch floor tom. If you have two drums on the floor, your 14 and your 16, a lot of guys now are using a deeper 14-inch snare in place of their 14-inch floor tom, and they'll still have their 16 over here. So a great choice for that would be to throw something super thick on there, like an Evans hydraulic, or even in hybrid, like one of those Kevlar, those super thick Kevlar hybrid heads. That'll give you a really crazy fat sound out of your snare drum, while at the same time, with the snares off, you can sort of get away with having it mimic a floor tom. So you sort of get the best of both when you're doing that kind of thing. But, you know, for the most part, again, like when you're shopping for snare heads, the thing to remember is that the thinner it is, the higher pitch it is, and the more projection you're going to get. So, you know, the most popular snare head, I guess, would be the Remo coated ambassador. It's just a coated single 10 mil skin. That for me has always been my favorite head. Like before I started getting into playing Evans, it's always been my favorite one. I of course now have a UV1 on my on all of my snares now, which is basically, you know, a bionic coated ambassador, if you want to think of it that way. But yeah, and then the thicker you go, you know, the more control you get. But then you get a bunch of other options, like you get dots, you get muffle rings, you get muffle rings with holes in them to sort of release a little bit of the ring and the overtones and stuff. There's a ton of different snare heads to choose from. But start with the thickness, all right? Like when you're shopping for a snare head, start with the thickness and then start looking at, you know, do I want that bit of extra muffling on it? Or, you know, do I want something a little bit thicker or something with a dot underneath it or whatever? Like there's a lot of stuff to choose from when you're shopping for snare heads. But yeah, just start there. Start with the thickness and then and then go from there. Snare side, snare heads, like the resonant underside of the snare, that's going to be the thinnest head on the entire kit. Resonant snare side heads are super thin, like paper thin. And you can experiment with those as well. Whatever you put under there is going to sound good. Like as long as it's meant for snare, it's going to sound good. So you don't really have to be too super choosy with what you put on the other side of your snare. You know, again, if you're an Evans drummer, hazy 300, hazy 500, whatever, like whatever you want to put under there is going to sound just fine. Bass drum skins. You got a ton of different skins to choose from for your bass drum, and it all depends on how you play it and what type of sound you're trying to get. Some drum skins are a little more specific to style, and then others are generally like more all-purpose. My only suggestion, if you want to get really specific as far as what type of head to use on there, if you're a jazz drummer, you're playing a lot of bebop type stuff, you're tuning your bass drum up, or if you're playing a lot of smaller bass drums, 20s, 18s, 16s, then you want to go with something thin, because generally your front head is going to be unported, you know what I mean? So it's going to be flat, it's not going to have a hole in it. And you're going to be playing it nice and open. So when you have a thin skin on there, it'll really sort of complement and fit a lot better with your toms as far as in harmony with the rest of your kit. But for the rest of us, you know, for those of us that just want nice punch, thump, and a little bit of tone, almost anything is going to sound good on there. As long as you know how to tune a bass drum and you're not one of those guys that likes to stuff 19 blankets inside of your kick drum, then with the right head on there at the right thickness, it's going to sound amazing. Resonant heads. When you're choosing a resonant head for your bass drum, the right resonant head will actually bring your kick to life. You will notice a difference if you go a little bit thinner from the original logo head that came on your kit. That being said, your logo head is going to sound just fine. Like, don't get me wrong. I just got a lot more low end and a lot more tone out of it. So that's something you might want to consider for your bass drum. What I was saying about the toms still applies. You can leave those resonants on there and they'll sound fine. But if you really want to add a little bit of extra life to your kick drum, consider changing the resonant head as well. So hopefully this helps, man, to get you started. You know what I mean? Do your homework, but just know that before you start shopping for heads, that's where it starts. You just want to choose a set of heads that's going to complement your playing style. It's going to complement the style of music that you're playing, and it's just going to help you and your drums to sound good. So, start there. You know what I'm saying? Do a little bit of research, and then go out and start looking at some drum heads. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to tell people where you learned this. Like, subscribe. See you next video.